What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a wild first 2 weeks since the NBA's returned. So many interesting storylines have already started forming this season. Some players and teams have been underperforming, while others have been wildly exceeding expectations. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of those teams, the team that's been making these first few games their moment and are probably the story of the season so far. That's the San Antonio Spurs. This team has really taken the league by storm with the level of play they've been putting forth, and they're looking to be ahead of schedule on their path to becoming a potential powerhouse. This video is going to be split into two sections. First, I'm going to talk about the team as a whole, how they're faring in this Western Conference, some of the guys I've been impressed with, and then we'll discuss the Wemby of it all. So, the Spurs are currently 5-1, which is tied for the second best record in the league. Up until Sunday night, they had yet to lose a game, but unfortunately, an insane shooting game from the Suns ended their undefeated streak so far this season. I truly do think this game was more of an outlier. Wemby and Vassell couldn't get their shots going, and they are a pretty limited offensive team to begin with. But mainly, it's that the Suns are probably one of the 5 to 6 worst teams in the league this season, and they shot almost 60% from 3. So honestly, I don't want a loss that I'm not putting much weight in anyways to muddle up the numbers. I think the points still stand. But just as a heads up, throughout this video, we're going to be talking about their 5-0 start to the season. And through those 5 games, they had the second best defensive rating behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder. And while that may not be much of a surprise to you, given Wemby and other competent defensive wings, what really stands out to me is that they're 7th in defensive rating. Even with their loss to Phoenix, by the way, they're still 2nd in defense and 9th in offense. But the Spurs are putting up 117 points per 100 possessions, despite the only meaningful addition to that end of the ball being Dylan Harper. The rest is just internal development. And their defense and offense through 5 games gave San Antonio the highest net rating of any team so far this season at 13.3. Better than the Thunder last year, better than the 2017 Warriors. For the record, their net rating is still at 8.8, which is the 4th highest in the league. What makes the Spurs offense so surprising to me and downright impressive is the way in which they've reached such offensive efficiency. Usually teams that jump ahead early in a regular season do so off the backs of their defense and athleticism. A great example of this are the Rockets from last season. Play extremely high intensity defense, force turnovers and strangle the opponent's offense, then get out in transition and score the easy buckets. But that's not what the Spurs are doing. Firstly, the team ranked 27th, practically bottom of the league in pace, meaning they're not maximizing scoring opportunities by running the ball up and down the floor. And beyond that, they ranked 15th in transition frequency. Half the league is getting out in the open court more than them. That being said, and this is where we start to see how the Spurs have been so successful, they are killer in terms of efficiency. While they ranked just 15th in transition frequency percentage, they were 3rd best in terms of scoring off of those possessions. And additionally, using some more traditional statistics, the Spurs ranked 4th in team field goal percentage and 8th in true shooting percentage. This team has just had a super efficient shot diet so far this season. They're playing very smart and taking shots they know they can make. Because beyond that, San Antonio's offense isn't that special. They ranked 19th in assist percentage, meaning they don't move the ball a ton. They're 17th in turnovers per game, so it's not like they're taking tremendous care of the ball. And they're 24th in three-point attempts, and we all know the importance of three-point shooting in today's NBA. Typically, teams that don't take a bunch aren't dominant offenses. But with that being said, while they ranked 24th in attempts, they ranked 11th in actual three-point shooting percentage. So again, it's efficiency and shot selection. They're 2nd in effective field goal percentage, 3rd in percentage on all mid-range jumpers, 8th on corner threes. The Spurs have just known what they want, and they're getting it. Now, I have to mention the strength of their schedule so far, and this is where some of these numbers will very likely come back down because San Antonio, while they did manage to go 5-0, and that's very impressive, first time in their franchise history, such and such, they also faced the Mavs, the Pelicans, the Nets, Raptors, and Heat through that streak, and none of those teams are contenders or really even playoff teams outside of the Mavs and Heat. When the Spurs play against the upper echelon teams of the West, we're likely going to see it become much more difficult for them in the half court. They'll have a much harder time dictating possessions on offense and won't have the luxury of passing up on good shots for great ones. Now, with all that said, while the Spurs roller coaster keeps ascending and they're still beating up on easier teams, we can appreciate the contributions of all their main rotation guys. For that, I've got to start with Stephon Castle. I'm not the biggest Castle guy personally, but I definitely saw him as someone who could be a good rotation piece. That being said, through their winning streak to open the season, he averaged 18.8 points, 5.4 assists, 6 rebounds, 1.8 steals on 53, 33, 60 splits, and that's more offensive growth over one season than I was expecting. It's 4 more points on 10% higher from the field while taking less shots. The one drawback is he was averaging 5.4 turnovers per game, which is way up from 2.8 in his rookie season, but I think there's some noise in that because he had 10 in the Spurs' overtime win over New Orleans. I think Castle could be their two-guard of the future, where he scores and defends the point of attack, but doesn't have many ball handling responsibilities. Devin Vassell is having a fairly standard season for himself so far. He was averaging 16.8 points, 2.4 assists, 4.6 rebounds, and just over a steal on 44, 40, 63 splits with just 2 turnovers per game, which is a career high even though he's taken more shots and averaged more assists before, but it's not by a reasonable margin, so I'm not too concerned. The one standout thing about Vassell so far this season has been his three-point shooting. He's beyond 40% on 8.5 attempts per game. That's a career high in both volume and efficiency, and could really end up being a pressure release valve for the Spurs offense. And then the rookie Dylan Harper has been very impressive. Through their 5-0 streak, he was averaging 14.4 points, 4.6 assists and rebounds, just under a steal per game, on 48, 36, 81 splits with 2 turnovers, and a lot of the rookies with volume possessions are in that 1.5 to 2.5 turnover range, but Harper has well above average efficiency. I really think he could be their lead guard of the future. He's got the playmaking, the size. I think he'll be a decent scorer. I'm just a fan of his game. He exited the loss against the Suns early due to a calf injury, so hopefully he's okay and it isn't anything major, but he did have 12 points in 11 minutes before that even happened. Outside of them, I think Julian Champagnie is a fine role player. I don't love his offensive game, but the Spurs' best 2 lineups through that 5-0 streak that played at least 15 possessions both included him, and that's worth noting. Between him, Harrison Barnes, who's been fine, and Keldon Johnson, who's reduced the amount of threes he's taking, so his efficiency has skyrocketed, you're looking at almost 30 points per game, so it's pretty good production. I also really liked the Cornet addition. He's a super solid pure rim protector, so he's helping the Spurs defense not crater when Wemby sits, but he's also a good connective playmaker and general high IQ player, so I think he helps elevate the younger guys around him. And of course, this is all without even bringing up De'Aaron Fox, who's yet to play a game this season. That dynamic downhill guard look is going to elevate San Antonio's offense even more so, and hopefully make things easier for the young guys. I think he was a good addition, but I wouldn't value him as part of my long-term plan if I were the Spurs, especially with how Harper has been playing. The point is, though, they have quite a lot of guard play when he comes back. And now, we have to talk about Victor Wembanyama. We all know the expectations Victor Wembanyama entered the league with, and through 2 seasons, he's been just about everything that was promised, and someone who looks to be truly on an all-time great pace if he can keep it up. But when we talk about the pantheon, the Mount Rushmore of players, individuals with their own cases to be the greatest of all time, those players don't grow steadily. They go from already really good for their age and experience level to full-blown superstars. They don't progress, they arrive. And Victor Wembanyama has arrived. We are starting to see the unthinkable 7'5", point forward, rim protecting demigod alien fully realized. Through their 5-0 streak, Wemby averaged 30.2 points, 14.6 rebounds, which ranked first in the NBA, 3.4 assists, a astounding 4.8 blocks, which I don't even think I need to tell you ranked first in the NBA, and almost a steal and a half on 56, 31, 80 splits from the field. Those are best player in the world numbers, straight up. That production is unbelievable, and there isn't another player that could average those numbers. The only player that could even rebound and score to the same extent as Wemby has so far this season is Nikola Jokic and maybe Anthony Davis for like 3 or 4 games at a time. But more than just sheer numbers he's putting up, there's a level of polish to Wemby's game that's leagues beyond what it was last season. Through that stretch, he averaged 1.8 turnovers per game, which is by far a career low, and he's also shooting way less threes, just overall leaning out his shot diet, something that takes a degree of maturity players usually don't develop until they're quite a bit older. And this is considering last season he got up to almost 9 attempts from 3 per game and was knocking them down at a pretty respectable clip. It's just that anytime Wemby settles for a 3, it's a break for the defense because he could just get closer to the rim and simply dominate, especially with his leap in efficiency from inside the arc as well. And this is all without mentioning for even a second that he's the best defender in the world. I mean, this dude is ridiculous. He's averaging almost 5 blocks a game, 6.5 damn stocks. What are we even talking about? The Spurs were allowing more than 30 points less per 100 possessions with him on the floor. Opponents' effective field goal percentage was like 12% less. It's all 97th to 100th percentile stuff. I'm sure his numbers will bounce back up after his 9-point outing against the Suns, but he probably won't sustain a 30-point per game average throughout the whole season. I think 26 to 28 is super likely though, and 30 points per game is also still on the table. That's how confident I am in him. It's funny because I was wondering if he would approach a top 5-ish level by the end of this season, but he's so clearly there if he keeps playing like this. While I would take Jokic, Giannis, Luka, and Shea above him, so far this season, like just these first 5 to 6 games, the only player I think you can argue has played better than Wemby has been Giannis, maybe SGA as well. But even then, with the Spurs being in the West and a lot of their success truly coming down to how awesome he's been, Wemby's the MVP right now. If he plays at least 65 games, and damn I hope he does, he's the defensive player of the year and probably not the MVP, but likely a top 2 to 5 candidate. And when you factor in that the Spurs have made meaningful improvements across the board, this could be a playoff team. I wouldn't pick them to win a series in all likelihood, but with the level Wemby is at and this team as a whole, the Spurs could go and win 50 games this season. Simply put, the Spurs have arrived and the Victor Wembanyama era is here. Okay. That's going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're wondering where all this information came from, the vast majority of these stats were collected through cleaningtheglass.com, Basketball Reference, and the NBA site. Shout out to all those resources, especially Cleaning the Glass. What a fantastic service. Oh my god. Just subscribe with the $5 subscription. Totally worth the money if you're a basketball fan. Anyways, let me know what you think about the Spurs so far this season and how far you think they could go. Check me out on Twitter and Medium, TikTok too. That's going to do it for now. Stay safe and see you in the next one.